about gang stalking, which, incidentally, is something that I thought everyone knew about, and I don't know why I thought everyone knew about that. I also thought we did a podcast about it. I don't know why. I thought Pete did a podcast about this.
I know it came up once in one of the episodes, but my only guess is that it was like maybe one of the surveillance episodes. But we just touched on it, and you mentioned gang stalking, and I said, "What is that?" And you were like, "I'm going to do that on an episode."
Oh, okay. So is that why you wanted it? Just because you remembered I said that, and you're like, "What is that?"
I think I put it on like one of the lists.
Oh, okay, got it. Well, guys, if you're not familiar with gang stalking, let me first say this. Estimates suggest, this is conservative estimates from a few years ago, that about 8% of women and 2% of men are stalked at some point in their life. That's just regularly stalking. However, when it comes to gang stalking, there is about 0.66% of adult women and 0.17% of adult men in the Western world who say they have been group stalked or gang stalked at some point in their lives. It's a relatively small amount, but it's still significant that that even exists, yet there's very little scientific study of it. So what is gang stalking?
Don't really have a big pool of people to work from, I guess.
Oh, yeah. So what is gang stalking? Well, reports of gang stalking deal with TIs, or targeted individuals, who are people who claim to be either constantly followed, surveilled, harassed, or in some way victimized by a whole bunch of people all around them, unknown forces, oftentimes wielding high-tech weapons of mind control.
Whoa.
This phenomenon is been growing in the past years, especially after September 11th. And a few notable cases actually resulted in violence, and I'll get to those in a minute. Not sure if you remember these, but Aaron Alexis was a man who killed 12 people at a Washington Navy yard in 2013. A former sailor, he left behind a document accusing the Navy of attacking his brain with extremely low-frequency electromagnetic waves. On the side of his shotgun were etched the words, "My elf weapon," which has something to do with electromagnetic frequencies.
Okay.
Yeah, but the way it's written, this wasn't like my ELF weapon. This is my weapon. Anyway, and this one I remember, and I thought was very sad. On November 20th, 2014, Myron May walked into a library at Florida State University, where he had graduated in 2005, and shot 3 people, leaving 1 paralyzed. He then dared the police to kill him, and then fired in their direction before being fatally shot. Earlier that year, before that shooting, he videotaped a testimonial about how gang stalking had ruined his life. Laying out his case, he describes an episode at a gas station where he believed someone in dark glasses was mimicking every one of his movements. And he was like, it was very creepy. Everything I did, he did. That one's sad because you could find that video online, and he's very composed. I didn't watch the whole thing because it was too sad, but he seemed very composed and very quote-unquote normal. So it was just sad to know that devolved into something so violent. Further explaining some of the things TIs say they're experiencing. Basically, TIs generally live in a state of constant fear. They see evidence of being followed by unmarked police cars and every black SUV that might drive by them, or they might say that they're being zapped by, like I said, extremely low frequency radiation, aka ELF. Or there's also something called the voice to skull technology, which is just I don't even know. Just messages going straight to your brain, or them being zapped with something that causes a tingling sensation or bodily ache all over. It's interesting. So mental health professionals say that this narrative of being surveilled or followed has existed as far back as they can remember by people who are experiencing psychotic symptoms. But now things are different because TIs, like I said, targeted individuals, are connecting more on the internet and organizing. The TI community, as of a few years ago, was estimated to be over 10,000 members. As I mentioned, has increased since 9/11, amped up by concerns over government surveillance and, all the general conspiracy theories around that. A large number appear to have delusional disorder or schizophrenia, many psychiatrists would say. Yet again, this phenomenon is virtually unresearched. There's seriously a handful of people. For the few specialists who have looked closely, these TIs represent an alarming development in the history of mental illness. Thousands of sick people banding together and demanding recognition on the basis of shared paranoia. Now, that is a line that I copied from an article. For some reason, I feel bad anytime I'm saying, this person with mental illness. What if they are being followed, Pete? Do we know for sure they're not?
Right.
So just know when I'm making generalizations, this is from the writer of this New York Times article, because maybe they are being followed. Anyway, so TIs raise money online. They hold awareness campaigns. Surprisingly, they host international conferences, and they fight for their causes in courts of law. For example, back in 2015,
That's just telling everybody where you're going to be.
I know. That's very true. In 2015, there was a covert harassment conference in Berlin. And in 2009, a man named James Walbert went to court to stop his former business associate from blasting him with mind-altering electromagnetic radiation. And perhaps the biggest victory for TIs lately was when believers in Richmond, California, persuaded city council to pass a resolution banning space-based weapons that they believed could be used for mind control.
Yeah, that sounds like a victory.
Yeah, that's interesting. That happened in 2016. So Dr. Lorraine Sheridan, who is co-author of perhaps the only official study on gang stalking, said the community poses a danger that sets it apart from other groups promoting troubling ideas online, such as people who are pro-anorexia or pro-suicide. An internet search for gang stalking turns up lots of pages that regard gang stalking as a fact, as something that's definitely happening to people. What's scary for me is that there are no counter sites that try and convince targeted individuals that they are delusional, Dr. Sheridan said. They end up in a closed ideology echo chamber. There are many instructional tracks online from veterans of the TI movement explaining things to rookies to the movement, and some advice includes: do not engage with the voices in your head. If your relatives tell you you're imagining things, they could be in on it. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, do not visit a psychiatrist. Dr. Sheridan's study examined 128 cases of reported gang stalking, and it found that all of the subjects were most likely delusional. For some reason, so this is a sidebar, and my therapist told me I can't use the word neurotic because it's not politically correct anymore, because I called myself neurotic. And I don't know, for some reason when I keep saying these people are delusional, it feels mean. I don't know. Or they're suffering paranoid delusions. But saying, this man's delusional sounds mean to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's not.
What happened to neurotic?
I don't know. I'm not sure at all. Anyway, going back.
Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Having, caused by, or relating to neurosis.
Yeah, I don't know. She said that's not. She wasn't don't say that. It's politically incorrect. I was I'm neurotic, and she laughed, and she's like, well, good news. We don't say that anymore. So you're not neurotic. That's not something that's really politically
How
correct.
else would we describe Miles from Murphy Brown?
Yeah, I should have told her that. I think neurotic's the perfect description. But anyway, of course, all gang stalking is not created equal, and the narratives change depending on the TI you're talking to. Some believe that the financial elite is behind their gang stalking. Others blame aliens, their neighbors, the Freemasons, or a combination of all of them. The movement's most prominent voices tend to believe that the surveillance is part of a mind control field test done in preparation for global domination. This is linked to the real CIA program, MK Ultra, to control minds in the 50s and the 60s, and many people think like it's linked to that, and that they never really ended that program. A leading proponent of this view is an anesthesiologist from San Antonio named John Hall. In his 2009 book, A New Breed, Satellite Terrorism in America, Dr. Hall gave his own account of being targeted. Agents bleached his water, he wrote, and bombarded him with voices making murderous threats. The book got attention, obviously, because he's a doctor. I mean, he has, a medical degree, and that tends to give people, make people believe them.
So, this isn't like, because when I think gang stalking, just as words, I think like a gang of people who are coordinating stalking somebody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like you're driving in your car and you think you're being followed and you look in the back and you're like, that's the same car that's been following us. But then that car turns the corner and you're like, phew. But then the next corner, another car comes out and that starts following you for like 20 minutes and you're like, I think this one's following me. Like that sounds like a coordinated gang stalking thing, and ultimately it would undermine just your general sense of peace in the world and make you go a little cuckoo. Huh? What's your therapist think of that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly cuckoo now.
But you're talking about like aliens, Freemasons, mind control. So this is not just like the two words together, gang and stalking. It doesn't seem like it's severe enough to describe what you're talking about.
Yeah, when I knew about gang stalking, I also thought it was just like, oh, somebody's watching me, or oh, the government's after me. I didn't realize it had to do with these electromagnetic frequencies and and voice to skull. Yeah. So yeah, this is definitely way grander than like
one step past Bluetooth.
I mean, what's their faces? The tall whites, or the Nordic aliens, are said to communicate telepathically. So maybe it's them. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Going back to this Dr. Hall guy, the anesthesiologist, he basically tells people that any psychiatrist telling them that they're delusional, they're being misled, and they shouldn't talk to their psychiatrist or psychologist. So Dr. Hall was invited for an interview on the radio show Coast to Coast AM, which, if you're not familiar, is like a conspiracy-minded show from California. And after he spoke on that episode, he said, I had probably 3,000 or 4,000 emails from people saying, it's happening to me in this state. It's happening to me in Florida. It's happening to me in California. The similarities of the cases spoke to a wide-ranging campaign. If the psychiatrists want to say that this is schizophrenia or delusional disorder, that's fine. But every one of these victims has the same story. Dr. Hall has obviously faced scrutiny from his Texas Medical Board over his mental fitness, but he retains his license to this day, as far as I know. But across the board, most people who are proponents of gang stalking and speak publicly about it end up being mocked by colleagues, family, might lose their spouses, and might lose their jobs. Mm-hmm. So I guess one final thought, like why, if everyone's telling them it's not happening, like why are they doubling down on this? Susan Clancy, a Harvard-trained psychologist who has researched people who believe they've been abducted by aliens, said it can be extremely difficult to dissuade patients who have latched onto beliefs that they think explain their delusions. I think it's a need for meaning and a need to understand your life and the problems you're having, she said. You're not some meaningless nobody. You're being followed by the CIA. In that way, Dr. Clancy said, the behavior shares a trait with religious belief. To abandon it would just totally upend your entire life.
Yeah.
So that's what I have, and I have to say, feels mean. It doesn't give the benefit of the doubt to anyone who says they're being stalked. I'm not making fun. I'm just saying it's kind of, I just feel mean saying like, yeah, everyone is saying it, you're delusional, sucks for you. I'm not saying I think it's a wide-ranging thing, but it just seems really dismissive.
But, weren't there like, and when I say recent, I mean like relatively recent, like in the last 5, maybe 10 years, weren't there reports of like low-frequency sound attacks on like diplomats in other countries and stuff?
That does sound kind of familiar. I don't have any details, but it kind of sounds familiar.
So like, I will say, in terms of acoustic weapons and like sound-based attacks.
Oh yeah. That doesn't seem. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like too out of reach.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not being gang stalked, but I don't know.
Well, I am.
It just. I don't know. I don't like to do a presentation that is just purely like, no, all these people be crazy. Could I have put in pieces directly from not pro gang stalking, but like from TI empathetic websites? Yes, but I did this on my work computer. I needed to make sure that there was nothing that made it seem like I was being gangsta, just like I'm researching it. I will say, though, I have to say this. While we're on the air, let me just pull up the website for the Covert Harassment Conference. Because, boy, was I like, it looks like you have, like you're making fun of yourself on your own website.
But what better way to discredit the attack than by telling people these people are crazy? Like, it's one of those things where you're like, I mean, it all makes sense, even though it doesn't seem like it makes any sense.
I mean, yeah, because, I mean, if it was a big government conspiracy, then, of course, you know, the people that be would tell you it's not happening. So I'm just saying it is kind of like a self-fulfilling thing. But, okay, so I am on covertharassmentconference.com. Feel free to join me if you like. There is, like, a banner of changing images.
Oh, no.
I'm going to explain them. There is one, well, I'll just start explaining it. There is one where it's, like, people in cubicles or something, and there's a man holding a microwave to the wall facing the other people in the other rooms, and it says, a microwave oven has been converted to a weapon with an output of 800 watts of microwave energy. And it's like there's a beam of radiation hitting all the people. Then there's one where there's a big white unmarked, well, kind of unmarked truck, and like a ray shooting at a man, and he's bowling over, and it says, death by heart attack, burst aneurysm, or cerebral hemorrhage is not always natural. Firing at the chest. So that's another, like, radio wave attack. There's a picture of a brain, and it says, where'd that go? We are all being connected to the brain computers. And my favorite one is a bunch of children. And it says in big, all title case, remote control children. And then there's like a little like computer window where it's selecting the mood that the children will have. And it's like mood, happy, as if the computer is making the children happy. And then the caption says, do you want yourself and your children robotized? Yeah, that's all I have to say, Pete. That website doesn't help their case. I will say that.
Yeah. Yeah, the one where the woman is doubled over looking like she's going to puke.
Yeah, they're pretty.
And if you scroll down the page, guys, you will see that all the presenters are white men except one white woman.
Woman, where's the woman? She
doesn't jump out, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, why do I keep asking? Oh, okay. Iwa Palela. That's a fun name. Wait, I missed the woman doubled over. Let me see. I didn't see the caption. Let me see what her caption says. Oh, the computer is choosing to activate fear and nausea.
Marissa, are you seeing all of this is from 2015 and 2016? It looks like, do they not do this anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I do know. I did mention that it was from 2015, but yeah, I don't think they've had it since. Let me look on my phone. Like I said, I want to be careful when
now I'm at their Facebook, and they just got to 2016. That's it.
Boo! Probably because they all got the stalkers. No, not going to make fun. Nope.
From July of 2016, Baton Rouge suspect Gavin Long complained that he was a long-term victim of gang stalking, a supposedly intense form of government and corporate surveillance covering every aspect of the subject's life.
Guys, I just want to say, if you have been gang stalked, please call us at 570-POD11.
Yeah, we're not going to make fun of you.
I promise. I won't. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm torn because the tone of all these articles are like, what?
Convince us.
Yeah, exactly. Tell us more about it. I'm not, like you said, the tone of all my articles are like, these people have problems, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm sure a bunch of them do, but I'm not above believing that there's someone out there who's actually being gang stalked. I don't think it's like wide reaching, but I mean, why wouldn't there be someone? I'm sure someone pissed off the government at some point. And they're trying to make them crazy or something. Yeah,
and if you just made it some normal person, and that was your target, just like random Joe Public. Whew. Spooky.
What if we get gang stalked?
But here's the thing, like, you could also sort of break this down into different parts where you're saying, like, the gang stalking aspect, the weapons aspect, the mind control aspects, like, you can have one without the other.
Yeah.
And so that itself is kind of scary, that some of the mind control and things like that. Now, if you watch the air quote documentary Wormwood on Netflix.
Hey, Wormwood?
Wormwood. Like a little squiggly bug.
Got it, okay.
There's like different ways that you can approach the death of the subject, and one of them is the government killed him. The other one is the government with MK Ultra stuff, like, made him so paranoid and crazy that he killed himself. And again, I know I'm not using the correct terms, but yeah, basically inflicted enough mental illness, or he suffered from enough mental illness that he killed himself, and so obviously the government wants you to believe one more than the other, but like, yeah, man, you just mess with somebody enough and you're gonna drive them to some sort of severe reaction, so.
Yeah, so I can believe it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like a widespread thing, like there's a billion people being gang stalked, but do I think gang stalking could occur? Yes. Do I think there needs to be a conference for it? No. But do I think it could exist? Yes. So really, I promise, if you feel like you're being gang stalked, I will not make fun of you. I doubt anyone's going to call us, but boy, would that be very interesting if they did.
Marissa, you and I have gang stalked someone in the past.
Shut up. Yes. Leave it at that. Don't say anything else on air. But yes, you think we're joking. We're not.